You know, we get in government, or we get in any situation in life, we get the reflection of our own consciousness. We can't really complain about what we have, because that is us. It's a reflection of our own being. Now, if we could have people who are actually conscious in a spiritual sense, then all the underlying problems to society, I mean, it wouldn't be able to change just overnight, but over a generation or 2 generations, you could have things where, for instance, say in England, and I'm sure it's the same here, you get disease. So you've got a lot of expenditure on hospitals and on fixing up people who have disease. Now, the problem is that most doctors, they study disease. They don't know about health. So you'd need to reprogram stuff so that you teach people about how to be healthy. That way, you don't spend so much money on disease. You'd have, people would be healthier. You wouldn't have such a, a requirement for, all the various things that take up all the money. You'd be able to use that money for something else. So the natural law that operates on this planet or in the universe, everything, as I said earlier, everything works in a perfect order. And there's a scheme to things which has a certain intelligence that drives it and makes everything work. Now, if we as individuals could go to that level of consciousness where we can bring it into our being, and as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi once said, for a forest to be green, each tree must be green. So it's no use just 1 or 2 people being, like this. You'd have to make the whole of society, if they had that understanding. And that's what I think, really, you'd have to, school people. Right from being children, teach people about their health, about their bodies, about consciousness, because it's all to do with consciousness. Raise the level of consciousness, and then everything automatically becomes better.
Do you think it can happen, or do you think people are totally on autopilot too much?
It can happen, but it's something which will take a long, long time, generations of people. I mean, if you look now, just through, say, from the 60s or the 50s, there's a lot more people, thanks to, say, Indian music, thanks to rock and roll music, who have got much more understanding. You go out there on the street now, you can find Indian spice shops, Indian restaurants, and places to go for yoga, for meditation. There's a much higher awareness, generally, on those kind of things. And so it is seeping through. I mean, where did all the really good hippies go when they all dropped out?
They're driving Volvos, George.
Well, I don't think all of them are. I think a lot of them are, have, brought up, there's probably 2 generations of kids now who are much more open to that type of consciousness, and they've been brought up by, being vegetarian or whatever, that helps the society become, a much more balanced. It's all to do with the balance. We've got too much extreme going on.
You're optimistic.
You have to be optimistic, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I just it's so funny, because when you talk to people, it's down the middle. Those who think it's getting better, those who think it's getting worse, and those who think it's reflected in the music in all cases.
But it is getting better and worse, because that's the nature of relativity. Good and bad, good and bad. But the individual, if the individual gets that consciousness, then it doesn't matter, because in a way you can retain the balance between the good and the bad. Because really, good and bad are the same. They are. Yeah. It's the same sort of thing. So it's like in the middle is the safe